Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new session of the Bizagi Process Professor. Thank you so much for being today with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to actually be in this session. I hope that you enjoyed everything that I have prepared for you today, and let's start. So, my name is Kevin Guerrero. I am the Technical Marketing Manager here at Bizagi, and I am also AKA the Bizagi Process Professor. Today, we will be talking about one really excited topic that is the leverage of process data to optimize your operations. And all of this will come up into a point that is how mining or process mining will actually fit simulation, right? So the main objective for what we will be doing today is we will understand and we will review how this concept of process mining works, then how process simulation works, and what we have done now in our latest version of the Bizagi Modeler is that we combine the two of them, and now we offer that simulations can run using data that comes directly from the process mining, right? If this is the first time that you are coming or that you are connecting into one of our Bizagi's Process Professor sessions, so first of all, let me thank you for being with us. Second, let me explain how actually this program works. So we have created this space and we launched this program on 2021. This is the second year of this program. And what we want to achieve with this space is we want to provide to our customers, to our partners, to in general, our whole community, one space that they can use, just go and learn from the latest topics, latest trendings in the market, latest features that we have included in the product, and how you can actually take all this information and get advantage and improvements inside of your company. So the way on how the Process Professor works is that we're going to have always one session a month. Always. It's the same way, the same channel, the same hour, always is going to be over there. We're scheduling this session the second Thursday of the month. Every second Thursday of the month, we're going to have one session of Bizagi's Process Professor. We have one session in English, one second session in Spanish if it's required for one of you. And what we will be doing is that in every single session of Bizagi's Process Professor, I'm trying to offer the same schema. So it means that I am going to split the session in three main parts. On the main part, I will be talking about a topic overview, something that is interested, some new trending, new features, some new launches of our product, how all of that actually will benefit your company and your organization. What kind of thing can you take advantage of that? And I will be talking in general about that. The second part, it will be a demo. So my objective is that you can always take a look and review everything that I have told you from a theoretical point of view, how it looks like when we're working directly in our products. This demo sometimes can actually use, or we can use maybe to present a couple things about the Bizagi Modeler. In other cases, it can be something about Bizagi Studio. In other ones can be about how to create widgets or how to create connectors or the customer portal. It can be a demo that actually shows something directly in our product. And finally, the last part of our session is going to be fully dedicated to a Q&A session. So questions and answers. But one of the most important things about this questions and answers section or part of over the whole session is that it's a free space for anyone to do questions about anything. It means if during the session, for example, today, we're talking about process mining, simulation, and then mining combined with simulation, it doesn't mean that at the end, at the Q&A section, you have to talk about just about process mining or simulation. For any reason you are working in a project and you want to have, or you want to know some best practices about connectors, or some best practices on creating business expressions, or you don't know something about modeling, or you want to clarify how to create a report, whatever you want, you can ask in this last section that are the Q&A, right? So in this way, we're going to keep the session moving. It's going to be really dynamic, and you are going to have the opportunity to resolve any questions or doubts that you can have, okay? So welcome again. Thank you so much for being today with us. And let's start with the topic that we have today. So the agenda that I will be following today is the following. So I will be talking, or I will start first of all talking about independently about each of the topics that we have. Process mining one side, and on the other one, process simulation, right? So I'm going to just go from a really general perspective. I'm not going to get into all the details because I have already covered these two topics in previous sessions of the process professor. So in case that you want to get in more detail about either process mining or process simulation, you can just go and take a look to any of those sessions before, right? But I'm going to explain you from a general perspective, what is process mining? What are the benefits that we can achieve from process mining? How can you use process mining when you are working in Bizagi? And exactly the same thing for process simulation. And then at the end, what I want to show you is one of the latest features that we have included in the latest version of the Bizagi Modeler, that is Bizagi Modeler 4.0. In this latest version, what we have done is that we have combined mining with simulation, meaning that now our customers will be able to run simulations not starting from scratch, right? Not starting from guessing how long it will take one activity or which is the probability that we should have in a gateway. No, we're going to use all the information that we are able to identify from the process mining files, and we are going to reuse that information to run the simulations automatically, okay? So this is what we have for today. So let's start with our first topic, that is basically everything about process mining, right? And I'm going to give you two simple definitions of process mining, and then we will see some important details about this. So the first thing is that process mining in general is going to help enterprise architecture and technology innovation leaders to understand operations and performance in order to create operational resilience, right? The second definition is that at the end, process mining will directly captures the actual process behavior based on log files of the systems that people use to perform their work, turning tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge. So at the end, what process mining is going to help us is to understand in detail real life of processes. What's the meaning of this? Sometimes it can happen that organizations or teams decide to identify, clarify, and create diagrams about the processes, right? Business process. And they want to know in detail how those processes works, what information is included, which steps we need to complete, which are the options that we have when we're in a process, if we have to take A, B, C, or the paths over there. Once that definition is complete, business areas usually put that definition of the process in their companies, and everyone start working based on that definition. But what we have seen is that when companies, for any reason, doesn't have a proper process orchestration platform, what it start to happen is that every single area start using different systems, different technologies, and they start creating different silos of information. So it can happen that in one single process, we need to have 10 or 8 or 5 different systems that are not connected, and where we need to go and extract the information from there, right? So at the end, that first process definition that we thought and that we believe that everyone is using and is following, in the real life, then we are able to identify that is not that way, and that maybe there have been some workarounds or some deviations, or someone is doing something completely different. So with process mining, what we will be able to do is like to do an X-ray of our processes. We will go and take those logs. We're going to find those logs, upload those logs into a tool, in this case Bizagi, and see exactly how the process looks like in the real life. What it will be really important for us is that this is going to give me the reality of my process, and I'm going to be able to use that information to then improve the way on how the process is being worked. Some of the main objectives that we can perceive when we're working or when we are handling with process mining are elements like this one. So first, we're going to increase for sure the business transparency in our companies. Now, we're going to be able to extract the data from the different systems and know for sure if what we define at the beginning is actually being followed, or if definitely we're having something completely different at this stage, right? We're going to increase the efficiency and reduce the process cost, because usually what it happens is that when we start having these silos of information, these multiple systems around the areas, what it happens is that most of the time we have repetitive work, we have duplicated work, we have people doing exactly the same, or sometimes the system doesn't even help us and we have bad quality in the data. So sometimes we have to go back and do multiple loops to just fix some data that we have in our systems, right? Another benefit is that definitely we're going to continue to do the continuous improvement around customer experience, right? If at the end we're able to just reduce those activities, reduce those times, reduce the time that I have to call again the customers and confirm some data that he or she already provides, then they are going to be much happier with us. And finally, we're going to improve the compliance. We know that many customers around the world has a lot of things in order or in line to comply, right? And they have to do a lot of maybe audits, they need to present reports. And if we have no idea how the process is actually working, then it's going to be really difficult for them to go and actually be good in this compliance step. So how Bizagi and process mining works. So this is a feature that we have added in our previous version of the Bizagi model, right? And what we have focused with this process mining version is that we are able to now discover processes. How the process discovery works. Take into account that when we're talking about process mining, we are talking about a really big spectrum of options, right? One of the options that it's available within process mining is this one that is actually the process discovery. And is the one where we are focusing right now in this moment. That's our main objective. We will evolve and we will offer other options, but for now, this is the one that we're offering. And in process discovery, the way on how it works is that we need to follow always, let's say, 3 simple steps. The first one is that everything starts with logs. So if we want to understand and try to identify how a process looks like in real life, we need to extract the information from all those systems. So if my company has a system that handles all the contracts or all the legal information, we need to go to that system and extract the logs. If my company uses a CRM, I need to go to that system and extract the logs, right? All those logs are going to be the source of information to discover my process. And in these logs, what at the end we're going to find it is every single time that one employee complete a task in one of those systems, the log is being stored. Usually those logs will provide me the time that was spent to complete that task, the name of the task, and sometimes even exact dates, when it started, when it finished. But it depends on the systems where we are extracting the data. One that we have that log, we upload the log to the Bizagi Modeler, and the first thing that we're going to see is that Bizagi is going to process all that information and is going to convert all of that into a simple BPMN diagram. Really simple, right? Now, once that we have completed that part, we have a second step, and that second step is the one that will allow me to do the analyze and the tune. Because sometimes we don't need too much detail, or sometimes we want more simplified versions, or completely the opposite. Sometimes I want all the details as possible. So in this analyze and tune, we will offer some options for you to decide how detailed that process diagram that was discovered needs to look like, right? If you want a lot of detail, or if you don't want that much detail, right? And finally, you are going to have one last option that would allow you to go directly and to import the final diagram, right? So once that I have analyzed everything about the process, that I have played around with, how much detail do I want to have in the diagram, I can import and I can have it as a diagram in my Bizagi Studio, okay? Now, what else do we have with this point? Those logs, the logs that we require as a first step to identify or to discover the process, must come in 2 supported files. The first one, it is this standard that is XES, Extensible Event Stream, right? And the second one are the files that are CSV, right? The comma separate values are the ones that we support. We need to follow some structure, we need to follow some definition. These 2, CSV and the XES files has already like some definition as some standard. Specifically in the CSV files, we need to have minimum this information: the activity ID, the case ID, the activity description, the activity creation day, and the activity solution date. These are the minimum values that we require for do the proper discovery of the option. And once that we have the diagram, this analyze and tune step can be associated, or we can do an analogy here when we're talking or when we're seeing a tool as Google Maps, right? According to the level of detail that you want to see, you can do zoom in or zoom out on your Google Maps. If I do a lot of zoom out, probably I am going to just see the name of the countries and that's it. Once that I start doing zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, I'm going to start seeing maybe more cities, maybe more small towns, maybe more roads, right? And once that I want all the detail, I can even go and review, I don't know, restaurants and coffee and bars and anything that I want. So exactly in the same way as I can just do zoom in or zoom out with Google Maps, I can do the same with the process mining in Bizagi. I can do some zoom in to see more activities, right? Or I can do zoom in to see more sequence flows that are exactly the same as if I want to see more places or more roads in Google Maps, right? Once that I have all of that defined, once that I got the detail that I want, that it will be my process and the process discovery that we have. So this is exactly the process mining and how it works. Now, what do we have on the other side? On the other side, what we're going to have now, it is simulation, process simulation. So simulation is being a feature that has been with us for a good time now. And is one of our star features, right? People like a lot because it's really powerful, it's really easy, it's really intuitive, and it allows us to understand a lot of things about our processes. So in general, what is actually the simulation? So simulation is nothing different than just a tool to evaluate the performance of a model under different configurations and over long periods of real time to reduce the chance of failure to meet expectations, eliminate unforeseen bottlenecks, prevent under, or overutilization of resources, including people and money, and finally, optimize the system performance, right? So with simulation at the end, what we're going to have, it is, we need a process diagram. That is going to be our starting point. We need a model. And based on that model, I'm going to start playing around with everything that I want to do around that model. I can analyze how that model looks like, how that model works, how that model costs. If I want to see how much time I am taking to complete 1,000 credit card requests in one branch, I can just run a simulation in one model and review exactly how long it takes, how much it costs, how many resources I am using, and then to start analyzing all the details about that. One of the great advantages of the simulation and some of the benefits is that definitely it has or it implies a lower cost. It is much cheaper for us to just run the simulation directly in a model, control, with no additional expenses, with no additional risk, and then review what is best for the organization. It's exactly the same as if we're trying to see the analogy here with planes, right? It's much cheaper for us to provide a simulator for a pilot to learn how to drive planes instead of sending him to just a real plane. And it's not only the cost, it is also that it's less risk, right? If the pilot, for some reason, make a mistake in the simulator, it's fine. It's under control. We can just take some actions to fix that problem. But if it is in real life, it can be too risky. So following the same idea, right, we also provide with simulation the possibility to resolve and to answer a lot of what-if questions, right? Because as I have one model, and that model is there, I can start playing around with multiple possibilities, right? So what if I decide to hire more people? What if I decide to, I don't know, do an integration with an external system? What if I reduce the cost? What if I decide to add an RPA bot? What if is whatever you have in your mind, you can start analyzing those variations of your model and then select what is better for you, which is the best decision, not only because you believe it or not because you just think that that's the best decision, but because you analyze it, you review it, and you extract the valuable information and the arguments to define that that's the best definition. So how it works in Bizagi? In Bizagi, our simulation basically has 4 different levels, and each level of the simulation allows you to go and extract valuable information for you. So process validation is just the first step. On that process validation, what you will be able to do is just to verify that the diagram, that model that you have created works according to best practices. At the end, one of the main objectives of this process validation step in the simulation is to validate that everything that is created is completed, right? So if I want to run 100 simulations, I need to create 100 cases and I need to complete 100 cases. That's it, right? The second level is the time analysis, where now we are adding information about the time. So now it's not only that I am going to complete 100, but it is how long it will take me to complete those 100 cases, right? And here we will be able to see minimum times, maximum times, average, and know exactly the time that it takes me to complete those cases. On the third level, now we add one additional variable that are resources. So if I want to create 100 cases to simulate credit card requests, how many analysts do I need for a credit card request? And not only how many analysts do we need, how much it costs, right? If I have an analyst which is a fixed salary, which is a variable salary, how long or how many we have in total in the organization. So now in this third level, we will be able to analyze not only how long it will take, but how much it will cost me, based on the resources that I need to run that simulation. And the fourth level and final one is now to add the calendars. So with the calendars, what we're going to do is to define that those resources that we defined before has actually working times, right? So they are not working 24/7. They are working from Monday to Friday from 8 to 5, and that implies that sometimes we're going to have queue times or waiting times, or there are going to be a queue of credit card requests waiting for an analyst to be free, right? So these are the 4 levels that we have in the simulation, right? Now, what we have done in this new version. So in our new version, what we want to present and what we want to introduce is that now process mining is going to feed the simulation, right? So what we have done and what we have decided in this moment is to reuse all the valuable information that already comes in the process mining files. Remember that in process mining, everything needs to start from logs. And those logs already provide me information about the number of the case, the number of the activity, and when the activity was created and when it was complete. So I already have information in terms of time. So how can I use now all that information to fit my simulations? Because I don't want that that I have to start my simulations always from scratch. I would like to reuse that data and start the simulation from something that I already have. So one of the new strategies that we have internally here in Bizagi is this rapid value delivery, right? We are going to focus all our efforts internally in our organization and in our development team, in our product team, everyone, to be the best partner for our customers to have a rapid value delivery. And we are going to focus on these 4 Ds plus one more, right? So we have discover, define, develop, deliver, and finally, a value management. This is the structure. This is the one that we want to be and that we want to achieve with all our customers. And every single of these elements or these steps is associated with one product or some of the features that we have in our product. So discover is the mining plus the simulation. Define, go to the modeler and do all the modeling, create your models for automation. One of the great advantages, if you already have complete the discover also with Bizagi, then you can even take that first diagram and move it to the definition, right? Moving, because you are going to stay in the same platform, but moving to the definition and now add all the details to have a process that is going to be ready for automation. So modeling for automation. Then move it to the development. Start doing the automation of the process. Start creating all the elements that you need to have a process fully automated. Finally, deliver into the Bizagi automation. And one of the most important things is that go and do the value management. Bizagi Modeler 4.0, it's here, and it was released in July 11th. So it means we released this latest version of the Bizagi Modeler almost 1 month ago, right? Is ready, everyone can use it. And we have made some important changes in this version. The first one is that we are going to focus a lot in our enterprise customers. So what's the meaning and the implication of that? Before, when we were working with Bizagi Modeler, we have 4 different plans: personal, professional, workgroup, and the enterprise. What we have done now is that we have taken out the 2 plans in the middle. So no more professional plans and no more workgroup plans. We're going to have just personal and enterprise. Personal, completely free for everyone. Everyone can download it, can use it. And we have added into the personal plan some important and really nice features that people were asking. So now, simulation is part of the personal plan, completely free. And also, we have added the possibility to publish your process documentation into all the available formats. Before, in the personal plan, it was only possible to publish into Word, Excel, and PDF. Now, we have added also the option to publish to websites or even integration with the SharePoint board, right? But additional of all of this, what we have added into the Modeler 4.0 is that we start the journey to complete and to close our loops, right? One of the things that we have completely clear is that once that customers finish the automation, it's really important that they keep this value management, that they keep finding or looking for opportunities for processes to improve, or how can I modify this process and find a new version or create something better that give me even more value. So what we want is to close the loop. And one of the ways on how we're going to close the loop is doing this first step, that is adding simulation plus mining, right? So we want to take information that we have in different systems that is already there working in completely different platforms that are not a part of this process orchestration platform as the one that is Bizagi. Use the information, simulate, and find ways to improve your processes, right? This is the first step that we're taking towards value realization, right? And what we want is the mining is going to create a model that has all valuable information already from the mining, and I can just use it right away to run simulations. Or even if I want, I can save the model, modify a couple details, and then play around with all the simulation capabilities, but still using the information that came directly from the process mine. So this is what we have added in this new version, and this is what I want to show you now in this demonstration, right? So let me just change really quickly here for my other screen, and let me show you how this is going to look like. There you go. Right. So this is what we have in our modeler, right? So I opened just one diagram that I have it over there. And what I want to show you is how these 2 features are going to work together, right? So the first one, or where I'm going to start, is let's start with mining, right? Mining is going to be the starting point for us. So mining is available in our modeler, and I have it here in the ribbon directly under the mining section and under the bottom that it's import. So when I click into this option, what is going to happen is that it will automatically open a new screen or a new window where actually we need to upload a file. Why? Because the first step for us to complete or to do the mining is to import a log. Remember that everything comes from event logs. So here I am going to upload one that I already have here ready. The one that I have is an XES file. And once that I click on the open, what Bizagi is going to do for us is that it's going to start reading all the information, analyzing all the data that we have there, and based on that, creating a process diagram. A process diagram that is based on BPMN, right? And this is what we have. By default, the diagram that Bizagi is going to create for us will come with some default configurations and default elements. Like which ones? So if you see in this moment, we're seeing some numbers around the activities. In this case, 3,512, right? On the other ones, 1,720, right? So we're seeing some numbers. This is because by default, the process mining is going to present or is going to show us the processes based on case frequency. It means from all the cases that was identified in that log file, that in this case, it was a total of 3,512 cases, how many of those are taking every single part of the process, right? So that's why we have here this information in this way. But now what happened? Now, as what we want to see is that mining is going to feed the simulation, right? Probably we don't want to see this diagram based on that detail. Maybe we want to see now something more related with time. So now I have the opportunity to change, right, over here, that instead of seeing this by frequency, I can see this by duration. When we click here, what Bizagi is going to do is, okay, now what I'm going to show you is not the number of cases that is taking every single step of the process, but now the total duration of all those cases in every single step of the process. So now that we are seeing here this 15.70 hours, it means that all the cases, all those 3,512 cases that we saw before, took this time to be completed in these activities. Then 1.21 weeks for these activities. Then 16 hours on this activity. So now I am seeing this. By default, I am seeing when I select the duration option, I am seeing the total duration of all the cases. But if I want, I can even modify. Yeah, sorry. I think I just disconnect my audio for 1 second, right? So now what I am seeing here is just the average duration of all the activities that I have it over here, right? And what I was telling you, right, in the presentation before, right, is that, can you hear me now, guys, again? Yes? I think it's working again, right? And now what I was telling you is that during the presentation, right, you can select the detail, the level of detail that you actually want to have for the diagram that you just discovered. How? So in this abstraction settings section that you have over here, you can play around with 3 different variables: activities, right, or tasks, sequence flows, and parallelisms. This is going to be at the end, how much detail do you want to see from the diagram? So if you see by default, I am just seeing all the detail of all the activities, but take a look that on the sequence flows, I am not seeing that detail. So I just have 10% of all the sequence flows. If I want to see more, I can just move this point and then select the refresh diagram. And once that I have this, take a look that more gateways start to appear over here. So I can select, or I can decide exactly how much detail do I want to see and select the level of the detail that I want to keep, right? In the parallelisms, that is the third one, what I will going to be able to see is if I want to identify or see more parallel activities, right? Information that's being executed at the same time. And now, finally, once that I have the diagram, once that I have selected the detail, that I have tuned the diagram into the level that I want, one of the options that now we have, it is the possibility to run directly the simulation right here. So if you take a look here, I have now this option that is run my simulation. And when I click run the simulation, what I'm going to do is that I am going to take all the information that I already have or obtained from the process mining and let the simulation to run using this information. So when I click in the run simulation 1, a new screen is going to be displayed. That is the one that I have for running simulations. And something really important is that I can click on start, and now my simulation can start running directly into this point. What I am using or what I am reusing from the process mining is not only the diagram that we are able to identify, is not only that detailed information, more activities, more sequence flows, more parallels that we saw before, but also now we're taking, or the simulation is taking all the information in terms of the duration of the activities and even the gateways, right? Remember that every time that we have a gateway, that we have a database gateway, we need to define the probability, right, of every case to go through one path or to go to the other one. So that's information that we already have. It's information on the real world. We know from those 3,512 cases how many times we took path A or path B. So I just want to reuse. So when I run my simulation, I am going to start seeing that all the times, all the values, all the information is going to have here. I can just to put this one to just run fast so we can see the final result at the end, right? And once that my simulation is complete, I will see the report using the real information. This is how my current work looks like, how long it takes me, how many cases I am processing, which is the average minimum and maximum time of every single activity, how long it takes me to complete all this information, all these cases into this point. So if you see at the end, to complete the whole process, I am taking 13 days. And this can be my starting point or my baseline to actually start doing more deep analysis about this. So if I want to understand what's happening, what I can do to try to solve those what if questions, what I can do is I can close my simulation view. That's it. Go back to the mining window. And I have the option to say, hey, let's finish and close my process mining. I already finished the discovering phase over here. And the first thing that Bizagi is going to ask you is going to be if you want to actually save the diagram that you just discovered. If we click on yes, we are going to have just a new tab under our process model, right? And one of the great advantages of this one is that now, if I decide to run the simulation from this diagram that is already saved as a model in my Bizagi, I have now the 4 steps for running the simulation. So I can go even deeper to that. And one of the great advantages is that once that we go into the second step, that is the time analysis, that is where we actually analyze how long it takes me to complete all of this. If I see the information of the activities, I am going to start seeing that the activities has already included data in terms of the time. Which data are we taking? So when we did the discovery, right, Bizagi took all the information from those files, do the whole analysis, and was able to identify minimum time, average time, and maximum time for every single activity. The one that we are reusing to define this, in this example, 8 minutes and 39 seconds, right? It is the average time. I am going to take all the average time to run my simulation. And at the same time, take a look that if I go to my gateways, I am going to be able to see the probabilities, the distribution. So from all the cases, what was the probability that one of those cases took the path A or to go to the registered plate? 89%. And if I go and analyze one by one, all those are going to have the probabilities already set up. So it means that I am ready now to run my simulation using these values that came from the real world that are valuable for me because it's the way on how it's working. And then I can start playing around with whatever I want. So if I already have these as my baseline, I can start creating either multiple scenarios, right? And say, okay, what if? What if in this real scenario, I am going to reduce the time of this activity? Or what if I want to take one activity out? Or what if I am considering to add a bot for a manual task that is really repetitive and do the analysis to see which is going to be the final impact in terms of the cost and times, right? So this is how this last feature that we have had in Bizagi Modeler works, right? It's having the option to do the process mining, yes, but at the same time to reuse all the valuable information that came from the process mining and use that information to run our simulations, right?